Just to jump in, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm happy to be speaking with you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
can you tell me a little bit about yourself? Like anything you want to share about like your background, where you grew up, stuff like that?
So I am from Detroit, Michigan, Motown, and many, many other things. And I now live in New York City. I'm an actor. My wife and I are both professional actors, and we have a 5-year-old son named Caleb. I guess those are probably the most exciting things about me right now. Yeah.
Why did you choose to pursue acting?
I don't really think that I had a choice in the matter. I think that I kind of showed up and I was like, this is what I want to do. And I knew it from a very early age. I knew it from about the age my son is now. And my mom tells me all the time, I used to like see billboards and say, I want to be in commercials. Like, this is just what I feel like I was supposed to be doing. And so, yeah, I didn't have that struggle of like, what do I want to do with my life? Like, what do I want to be when I grow up? I kind of always knew that I wanted to perform in some kind of way.
In terms of your profession, can you kind of give me like a timeline of, where you were, like which stage you were in life when you got diagnosed with cancer and, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, here's a funny story. So, talk about like doing what you're supposed to be doing. I was working I was a professional actor at the time. I had been working professionally for probably 15 years when I was diagnosed. And I was actually in a show in Los Angeles. I was in a play in Los Angeles. When this whole thing happened, I was 30 minutes before a curtain went up on a play that I was in with three other people. And so many things came out of that play, relationships that kind of helped me uh, manage life while dealing with cancer. And I really do feel like God was like, listen, I know this is scary for you, but like you were exactly where you're supposed to be when this all went down. You were on stage, and these relationships that you have developed as a result of you doing the thing that you were placed on this earth to do are going to make sure that you stay on this earth. So I really do feel like um, I am doing what I was supposed to do. And even when this cancer journey came into my life, it was like smack dab in the middle of me living my purpose.
Mm. When you got diagnosed, was there anything leading up to it where you like, oh, I need to go get this checked out, or like, and then in terms of oh no, there wasn't.
Oh no, go, but ask your other question, and then I'll
And
explain.
then, when you got diagnosed, can you kind of share like what you were feeling in that moment, and
Yeah,
then, your actions after?
yeah. So here's the funny thing. So I didn't actually, so everything kind of happened for me in 2016. 2016
Mm.
is when I had like a medical emergency, and I was like, oh, I should probably go to the doctor. Like something's wrong, and that was when I was at the play. And so they weren't really able to tell me in the next like 24 hours like what was going on. They were just like something's going on with your filtration system, like with your kidneys. And so I waited to see a urologist, and it was after another traumatic event that I think followed. Like, so the first event happened on a Saturday night, and then the next event happened on a Monday night. And
Mm.
so Monday night, I ended up in the ER. And that's when they were like, okay, you need to see, a specialist. And when I saw the specialist, he was like, listen, there's a mass on your right kidney. We're going to have to take it because of where the mass is. Even if this is not malignant, we're going to have to remove your kidney. And that's going to be the cure. Go live the rest of your life. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's quite shocking, but okay, like these are my options, right? Which are no options. Like I'm gonna have a kidney removed one way or the other. So they took my kidney, and that was in 2016, and they were like, okay, go live your life. So I went and lived my life. There was no diagnosis at the time. I found out after they removed the kidney that the tumor was malignant. So they were like, there were cancer cells, around this tumor, in the tumor. I'm not really sure, but again, they were like, there's no cancer in your body. We removed it. Go live your life. So that was stage one or phase one. So phase one was like this event, and within 2.5 weeks, the tumor was out of my body and I was healing and that was it.
Mhm.
4 years later, um, in 2020 is when I went back for a follow up, and they were like, "We see something in your lung, and we don't really think this is anything to worry about, but let's go get it checked out." So I went to a pulmonary specialist. They checked it out. They also said it's nothing to worry about, but here, take these antibiotics and come back in a week because we think it's like an old infection. I
Mhm.
did that. When I came back in a week, they were like, that's when things started to like shift, right? Now it was like, we think that maybe this was a metastatic event and that maybe there has been cancer in your bloodstream since you had your kidney removed. So I don't really feel like I mean, I was definitely aware that I had fought cancer in 2016, but it felt a lot like it like zoomed by me. In 2020, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to deal with this head on. And I still didn't experience what so many people experience. So in 2020, they were like, you need to start immunotherapy. And that was like, now I'm being diagnosed with like this metastatic event, and now I'm having to be treated for cancer.
Mm.
Uh, Simultaneously, I had just become a parent,
Oh.
and my son was born in January of 2020, and this all happened in July of 2020. So how I felt was devastated. I was, it was so heavy on me that there were times that I couldn't function because I wanted nothing more than to be a parent. And I had just become a parent. And then I was like trying to do the math of like, what age do you have memories? Like, will my son even know that I was his dad? So it was rough for, I would say, the first 2 months after learning that. And yeah, I think that I probably felt in July and August and September what I think most people feel when they go to a doctor and the doctor says, listen, like this is what the deal is. I kind of, mine was like delayed. It was scary the first time, but this time was different.
How do you think it affected how you lived after in terms of like the first stage in 2016 and then
Hmm.
the second stage in 2020? I know you talked about your relationships, especially like with your child and
Yeah.
um your moment of like, oh, I've had a lot of relationships that's helped me on your play.
Hmm.
But in terms of like the future, thinking about the future, how has like your mind shifted in both of those times?
So I think I spent a lot of time after the 2016 event
Hmm.
in fear that something else was going to happen. And I was kind of just like, I felt nobody is this lucky, is, and that like you, like it whizzed by you, but it's coming back. I coined my own term for it. It was like, I felt like I had like boomerang syndrome where I was just like, I felt like it was coming back. And the difference was once I realized that my son was proof for me that I was going to be okay, I try to waste absolutely no time worrying about if cancer is coming back into my life. Like I am done. Like my energy is always like, you are in survivorship. We are keeping it pressing. We are not spending any time worried about, and don't get me wrong, it's a daily fight. Like, there's not a day that goes by that I don't have to like say, nope, we're not going there. But I spend a moment in that place, whereas I think the first time around I would spend time there. And it was new, every time I went to the doctor to get checked out, it was like the weeks leading up to my scans were some of the most anxiety ridden weeks that I had because I was just like so in fear. Uh, you know, the thing is that nobody wants to deal with cancer. Nobody. Like that's the thing that nobody wants to deal with. For those of us who are blessed enough to call ourselves survivors, it's like once you've done it, it's like, well, this is survivable, for some people. And, if I'm going to believe that somebody can survive from it, why not believe it for myself, So I've that's the mindset for me is different. I'm like, I have a kid, he's 5. I want to meet his children. That's it. You know what I mean? And I don't really allow myself to meditate on the scary stuff. Now, I've been fortunate in that um, my scans have been clear since January of 2021. So I have been uh, blessed in that regard to have like history on my side in terms of like when I go get scanned, I'm like, they've been clear, they're going to stay clear, and that's not everybody's story, you know. But I remind my body all the time that it's healthy and it's strong and it's doing what it's supposed to do.
That's so great. It's like
Yeah.
it's such a blessing to hear how strong you are in these moments and also that you have these reminders. And then um in leaning into that, how do you think like your daily life has been changed? I know you talked
Mm.
about reminders and everything, but just the way you go about it, is there like rituals that you like to do in the mornings or
Yep.
and stuff?
Yeah, I definitely like to start my day off with some prayer and some meditating and kind of just, and for me meditation is really just kind of trying to be still and just like let God, and like for me it's talking to God and let him kind of tell me what he needs to happen for the day, but just to find myself in a place where I can do that. Funny thing is as an actor, like I think I'm naturally a night owl. Like I love to stay up late. Once you have a kid, man, it is a different ball game, right? And so he's got to get up by 6:30. And so I recently, like within the last month, I started waking up at like 5:15 so that I can have an hour to myself before he gets up. And in that hour, I will do my prayer, do my devotion, and I'll try to like do some kind of stretching or mobility. Um, even if I'm going to go to the gym. And then that's the other part. Like I've always been a super healthy person. Like my body is my instrument. And you know, I'm gonna be honest. I felt like my body betrayed me when this all happened. I was like, man, I feed you well. Like I take good care of you. And very quickly, like I kind of realized that some things are unavoidable.
Mm.
You can have a medical crisis and be in the best shape of your life and heal quickly, or you could be in not so great shape and still have the medical crisis, and now we have a problem. So, as much as I exercise to be healthy and to stay healthy, you know, I kind of like preach this message now of like, you want to be healthy because you don't know what's coming down the line, you know. And my body was in the its peak condition to deal with what it needed to deal with. Had I not been taking care of it, things could have gone, things could be different. So, you know, that helped me kind of deal with the betrayal. But for me, physical fitness and wellness is a really big part of how I live my life. Not just because I'm a performer, but also because I've had this thing. This I've been on this journey, and I've learned a lot about inflammation and how inflammation is the body's like way of letting you know that things are not ideal. It doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, things are like drastically wrong, but like your body is communicating with you. And these are things that I wasn't really aware of before that I'm much more aware of now.
It's so interesting to hear the internal battle that you had with yourself, like the betrayal that you felt from your own body.
Hmm.
And it's also really it's also really interesting to hear about how strong you stayed in your faith with God. And if it's not too sensitive of a topic, can I ask like how your relationship with God has changed through this whole journey?
Yeah, it is. Uh, I've been thinking about this a lot actually because I've been talking to God about a lot of things lately, and um, I can't help but in my moments of feeling like where are you, like what's going on, like I always come back to this whole health thing because this was probably the most significant faith event of my life, right? And I didn't know I was going to share this, but I would love to share this because this is a big part of why I was able to mentally move from this place of fear and look at my son and know that I was going to be okay. Uh, when this happened in 2016, I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version. I heard very clearly from God, I'm doing this for you and not to you. I heard that. It was almost like he was talking out loud, right? I'm doing this for you. I'm not doing this to you. Yes, I'm doing this for you. I'm not doing this to you. And it was almost like he was like, there's something in your body that you don't even know about, and I'm making it reveal itself so that it can be dealt with. Okay, great. So it got dealt with. Fast forward, I have a kid. Um, I'm a junior. Everybody expected me to name my son after me. And I really just felt strongly about naming him Caleb for a lot of reasons. But the thing that spoke to me most was that I was like, I want him to remember what God said the first time. Like, the story of Caleb and Joshua and Caleb, and don't tell anybody, like, make them go look it up themselves. I wanted Caleb, my son, to remember what God said the first time, no matter where he was in his life. So now he's here. And I go to LA and they tell me we see something in your lungs, and like life falls apart for me because now I'm worried about if he's even going to know that I was his dad. And one day I was looking at him and I burst into tears and I was just beside myself. And I heard God say, "What is his name? What is his name? What did you name him?" And I was like, "I named him Caleb." And he was like, "Because what?" And I was like, "Because I wanted him to remember what God said the first time." And he was like, "And what did I say to you regarding this the first time? I'm doing this for you. I'm not doing this to you." And I looked at my son and I was like, oh man, you're proof. You're all the proof that I need that I am going to be okay. So now I feel like God got my son here just in time because he was like, this beautiful blessing is what's going to remind you every single day. Every day you call his name. The naming him I thought was for him, but it was for me. It was as much for me as it was for my son. So that has really brought me closer in my faith. Um, all of that to say that. And it doesn't mean that there are not days where I have to fight harder to remember that and believe that, because there are days like that and I am human, and there have been some really, really painful days on this journey as well. But at the end of the day, I believe what God said the first time. So no matter what I have to endure, that is the truth that I always try to hold on to.
That
So
is so beautiful. Thank you for
yeah,
sharing that.
absolutely.
Mhm. And then with your relationships, like with your son and then also your wife and then your
hmm
castmates and everything, how do you think you've shown like your emotional and like physical and your whole journey through your relationships with them?
I've always, uh, I've always been a lover of people.
Hmm.
I think that that's just something that I've always been really good at and felt pulled to do. I think that when you deal with something that feels life threatening, it just it solidifies this desire in you to make and keep meaningful connections with people. And so, my wife is my best friend, and I wouldn't be here talking to you if she hadn't pulled me through, prayed me through, cried me through, loved me through, right? Um, when it comes to people outside of my home, I feel like when you face something like cancer, your perspective, you're able to zoom out and kind of recognize that, like, first of all, uh, fear is relative, meaning like I could be afraid, um, that a sickness or an illness could make me leave here sooner than I want to, but someone else could be afraid that, like, if they you know can't find another job, they're gonna be like, fear is relative. But when you've dealt with it on such a personal level, it really helps you connect to everyone who is dealing with it, and you kind of have to all deal with it the same. I have a really close friend of mine who is not a believer in God or anything like that, and she gave me one of the most valuable uh, sayings that I could hold on to during this time. And she said, when you imagine the worst and it happens, you've traumatized yourself twice because you've traumatized yourself before the worst thing has happened, and now it's happened, and now you're traumatized in dealing with the actual thing. If you imagine the worst case scenario and it doesn't happen, you've traumatized yourself unnecessarily.
Mm.
And I just thought about, how do you want to participate in this? Do you want to participate with yourself in terms of hope? And I made that decision. Yes, that's how I want to participate. And so when I meet people who are dealing with things, that's the challenge that I always put to them. I'm like, how do you want to participate in this thing? You're facing a situation that is very difficult. No question about it. How do you want to participate? Do you want to believe that the worst is going to happen and possibly make way for that to happen? Or do we want to put all of our belief, our hope, our feelings, our energy, however you want to spin it, or whatever you want to call it, into participating in a positive way? And I think that that is one of the other reasons why, you know, this has been my story. Like, this just helps me connect with people on a deeper level. I'm going to be honest with you, Jane. I almost sometimes forget to tell people that this is part of my story because I'm so focused on living life. But every time I do, people have the same response. They're like, "Oh," and I'm like, "Yeah," and God is good, or "Yeah," and I'm healthy. I'm like, don't. When I meet other people, and I say this gently, and I say this with love. But if I ever hear someone talk about a health situation, particularly with cancer, you know, um, someone will say, "I have cancer." And I'm like, "You don't have cancer. You're
Mm.
fighting cancer. Cancer does not belong to you." Like, even in the way that we speak about it, even if you were, you know, diabetic, or if you were overweight, it's like, well, I'm just overweight. No, you're fighting to be at a healthy weight. But
Mm.
like, I really believe that we participate in our health and in our healing. And that's the kind of connection that I really think that this whole journey has solidified for me. It's like, meet people where they are and then help them see themselves where they want to be, and remind them to talk about that and not where they are, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you just like talked about this, but to kind of close like in an overarching kind of way, to
Hmm.
people who are just diagnosed or is going through treatment right now, like what piece of advice would you give them?
I'm so glad you said this because I was literally about to say it before, and I was like, wait, maybe it'll come up. Uh, the first piece of advice that I would give someone dealing with a medical crisis is, a healthy mind is a healthy body,
Mm.
meaning where the mind leads, the body follows. A nurse in the urgent care, when this all started, said that to me, and she walked out of the room, and I literally broke down. But after I finished crying and all the fear had kind of like settled for a moment, I remembered thinking, okay, you have a choice right now in this moment. How are you going to participate? So the first thing that I would tell anybody is, make up in your mind, even without a crystal ball, even without, you know, a word from God or anything else. We still have a choice to decide to participate and put all of our energy in healing and wholeness and wellness. Because the alternative is to believe what? That this is the end, that you're not gonna get better, that you're not gonna heal. And I just don't find any value in that. So that's my first piece of advice, is to put all of your mental energy towards believing, if the statistics are 2%, that you somehow are going to fall within that 2%. And then surround yourself with people who will believe it for you when you can't believe it for yourself, because that's equally as important. I would not be here because I was not strong every day. I was weak a lot of days, and I was confused a lot of days, and I was racked with fear a lot of days. And that's when, you know, I feel like I stepped into a boat. If cancer was a boat, or no, I take that back. If cancer was a body of water, and I had to step into this boat and get from one side to the other, I don't even remember grabbing an oar. Like, I just remember so many people loving me across, and I blinked and I was on the other side. And we are never meant to go through life by ourselves, especially when something like this happens. So get your mind in the right place, surround yourself with people who can help you stay in that place. And then I think the hardest part is just believing the best for yourself, no matter
Mm.
what it looks like. No matter what it looks like. And that's easier said than done. I've been there, so I know that it's possible, but you have to have something in front of you that says, this is why I gotta believe the best. I have so much life to live.
Thank you so much. Thank
Yeah.
This is such an inspiring story to hear, and I'm
I hope
so
some of that
grateful.
helped.
Yeah, it did.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It is always a blessing. I think that this is part of why I went through it. To be able to talk about it and to um I don't think that I'm that inspiring, but like I do feel like there is someone that I'll talk to that just needs to know that like you can move on and be okay. And if that's inspiring, then so be it. But I realize that I can't remain silent.
Yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, and thank you
You're
for
welcome.
talking about it and for
Absolutely.